People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you for tuning back in each and every time. I hope all of you are always well and safe, and I hope I can extend the same to your family. Condolences if I can't, you know, sending you peace and strength and love and all of these things if you're going through tough times. But in relation to Arsenal, apologies people, off topic, but I've actually started shining two lights here and it's going to take a while to get used to them. It is quite bright and it's mashing up my eyes, but I wanted to speak about Arsenal's academy. Now, I'd say it doesn't really make sense to say a team's an academy side is in transition, because transition is always going to be the case. At under 18s, you can play 2 seasons, 3 seasons max. Actually, probably about 4 if you're actually 16 years of age or so, and depending on when you was born, or actually 15 if you're as a schoolboy and you got exposed to it early, like United's Amari Forson, who's 15 at this moment in time. But typically, you know, it's 2 years at under 18s. You hope it's 2 years or so at under 23s, and then you're out of there. You want to really be out of there by 19, max 20, or you just run the risk of, you know, just not really developing. Again, there's exceptions to the rule, and if you're a bit off by these estimations, it's not necessarily a cause for concern. Arsenal at under 23s, I'd say, for want of a better word, transition. We're seeing Nathan Tormey, a wide player, you know, evidently doesn't see a pathway at the team, and it's difficult to see one myself. The wide man scored some important goals this year, being one of the better performances at 23 levels. He was offered a 3-year deal. Now, he could have taken that, been at Arsenal for 3 years, future secured for 3 years. Let's not beat around the bush, the finances as well, and being comfortable. But was there a pathway? You know, he's got to train with the first team, but no disrespect to Arteta, but are Arteta and the coaching staff taking him in? Do the Arsenal hierarchy or Mertesacker, who's head of youth development, do they feel he's got a long-term future here, or does he believe he can be a player immediately for the 23s? He might commit his future for 3 years, go on 2 loan spells. Before you know it, you're just here and you're not part of it. So he wanted to go somewhere else. Looking at the wide options is stopped. You know, Robbie Burton left. You know, Olayinka has a tough decision to make when he comes back in the summer. Osei Tutu, after having a decent, strong end to the end of in Germany, the German league, having a strong end to it. You know, Ben Shafe, you know, had a good year prior to the season being disrupted with Doncaster as well. There's a couple of players that are getting to that age where decisions have to be made, and just about younger. And, you know, there'll be a couple more departures. But, you know, as you lot know, and Arteta's spoken about it today, but that's for my other video, check that one out. But he's spoken in relation to Balogun and Balogun's future. Now, it's a difficult one. I've spent time on Balogun. Balogun's not actually the purpose of this, but looking at 23s now, results are important at 23s level. You want to win, you're preparing for first team football, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not. But looking at the 23s, I thought the under 18s needed a striker or two, because Sam Greenwood, etc. are no longer eligible to play at that level. You've obviously got Kyan Edwards, schoolboy, coming on now next season. Hopefully he kicks on. You've got Luke Planche, I can never pronounce his name, but had a decent season. You've got Billy, who's going to be a first-year scholar. I'd be amazed if we don't sign a couple of players, whether that's English sourced or abroad. I don't know. We've been linked with Swedish striker Roebuck. I don't know too much about him. I just know he's 17. He's linked with us and Bayern Munich, and he recently played for his side's first team at the weekend, or on Thursday last week, and said he wants to leave. But obviously, looking at purely the striking options now, Sam Greenwood, you know, Joel Lopez, you know, who else is there? Sam Greenwood, I've written it down. Sam Greenwood, Joel Lopez, Ben Kocher on a more permanent basis. There's a Daniel at right back. There's obviously a couple of exceptions. Miguel Azeez. These are the sort of players I want to see assert themselves in the 23s next season. I'm looking to have big seasons from Azeez. I'd say Miguel Azeez, because he was getting a look in the 23s. He was getting a look in, people. You saw it. And I think for him, he's got the technical qualities. He's got the range of passing. It's just about playing with maturity. And for me as a spectator, I'd say playing with your head up, playing with maturity, and knowing the areas to play. Because sometimes, you know, the goals haven't been his fault. But if I look at Blackburn at under 18s level and Norwich away last season, you know, I'm never going to say one goal's just one person's fault. But against Blackburn, you know, I'm pretty sure it's either Blackburn or Norwich. I think it was the Blackburn game he conceded a penalty. It could have been Norwich. But either way, not concentrating and not playing with your head up and not playing with urgency. Now, he's going to be a big player, someone I think has a future at Arsenal away. So I'm looking to him. Specific to the strikers, though, people. Now, obviously, you know, 23s, Steve Bold probably could probably assume last season, well, this season and maybe next season to a degree, that he could call on the likes of Eddie. Now, if Eddie, remember, it's difficult to remember now, but Eddie wasn't here. Eddie came back in January. He wasn't here for the long time of football, and you know, he's asserted himself. Unless another striker's brought back in, or unless Lacazette does his thing, or some other things change, you'd potentially going into next season, he is ahead of Lacazette in the pecking order. So he's going to play. But, you know, if he stayed at Arsenal, he might have been in and around the team. He might have needed to play 23's football to keep fit, which is, you know, a thing. He went out on loan. So, you know, he could have been used at 23's level. Obviously, Tyrese John-Jules went out on loan, but he was used at that level as well, people. And then, obviously, you've got Balogun who might leave. Now, you know, if we look at Tyrese might stay at Arsenal. He might go on loan again next season. Do you get it? Balogun may or may not be here next season. So that's two men. Eddie Nketiah, if he keeps developing, ideally he never plays a game at 23's level again. So that's three options and three good options. And I'd say more so Tyrese and Balogun because they had a good partnership. Eddie, Steve had to deal with him for a while. None of them are involved at that level. So, you know, it's a great... These things provide opportunities. Like even the under-18s, first year and to be first-year scholars, if you play your cards right, you might get under-23s action. Because looking at the strikers, there's not too many options for Steve Bold to call upon at 23s. So I think Greenwood started getting a look in for the 23s and he sees himself as a striker, allegedly. For me, I think he can be a quality number 9 either here or somewhere else in the future. I've always maintained he could have a future in the wide positions, but the truth is, I believe if he's not going to be a striker, I believe he could be a very good 10 or playing in that hole, people. You don't know, he's got good technical qualities, he scores decisive goals, he wants to be the one to make the difference, you know, he's got good balance, he's got good assists, you know, I mean, I've done an interview of him, but I still don't know what the man is, you know, he's a good player, and I think he'll benefit from obviously not too many strikers at the club, because, you know, Balogun and Tyrese, you know, you'd probably have to wait for them to lose form or something to get a look in up front, particular. If they're not going to do other things, I do think he plays substantially. But you'll get opportunities to play through the 9 next year. And naturally, he moves up the pathway. And he's someone I'm back to deliver goals, back to score goals. I think it's a big season from him next year because, yeah, man, I want to see him do his thing at 23s and maybe elevate, either go out on loan, first team, who knows, because opportunities are there. And like I said, with younger players as well, that could happen as well. So there's always a silver lining somewhere if players are going to go, because if Balogun goes, Tyrese goes on loan, Eddie's in first team, there's a bag of football. And for Steve, that's probably why I think we might sign a striker or two. Again, I don't know anyone connected with Arsenal to say that, but that's genuinely what I believe. And next season, I think Azeez is going to have a good season. I hope him and Greenwood have a good season. You know, I'm looking at, there's so many players I'm looking to see the 23s next year, because some of you are not old enough for under 18s. Now it's 23s, and now it's like, I want to see you look there, man. And I mean, even in central midfield, you look at Charlie Patino, schoolboy playing under 18s. You know, you'd imagine Matt Smith won't be here. You'd imagine Ben Shafe wouldn't be here. Oli Inca potentially gone as well. I don't know what Jordan McNeff is going to do, but you know, excluding Cottrell, there is a case for a lot of midfielders to actually go out on loan and play football elsewhere and do other things, to which, you know, Cottrell and Charlie Patino can take advice. So even Patino as a first year scholar, it's not just, I'm not focusing on striker, but there's opportunities potentially at under 23s football next year. And it's important to remember Greenwood's been linked with moves away, or was linked with moves away more so earlier on, a few months ago, and he's someone I've got a lot of hope in, and I hope. Again, I don't really care if he gets spotlight or not, and I don't think he does either, because ultimately attention doesn't mean you get you play minutes and stuff, and fan hype means nothing. But you know, if he's been given an opportunity or a spot to take care of, if Balogun, because we've got to remember Balogun could see out the last year of his deal, but if he isn't, then obviously there's more attention on Greenwood. You know, before maybe Arteta does seem like he cares about the academy, but if he doesn't go there and they ask, oh, who's the strikers? You know, you was hearing Eddie, you was hearing Balogun, you was hearing Tyrese, you was also hearing Greenwood. But you know, naturally with more people going, there's more chances. You look at Joe Willock. Joe Willock was here at a time when there was Josh Da Silva. You know, Ben Shafe was hyped as well. Who else was there? Dan Crowley doing his thing at Birmingham. Marcus McGain. You know, there was at a time there was a lot of Benassia, Bielik. At a time there was a Dragomir. There was a lot of players either sourced in from other clubs domestically or brought in from abroad you know, it was a melting pot. And I'm not saying Joe wouldn't have made it and things like that, because he's a talented player in his own right, and he made Europa League when these guys were still here. But, you know, there's more, with all these players going, and as frustrating as it is for, you know, not seeing some of these play first team, you know, not obviously getting the most money we could, opportunities were there for Joe, which you may or may not have been there prior. Do you get it, people? There's always an opportunity somewhere, man. And even with Eddie, you know, if Daniel Marlon was here, I do think Eddie would have got his chances, because I didn't agree with it, but I did think Eddie was ahead in terms of his development, or getting a look in, even in Wenger's looking, when Eddie was getting his chance in China and that with Joe, remember, and Cohen Bramwell and that. But even Eddie took advantage. Advantages are there, and even and whatnot, people. So we'll see what happens next year, man. We'll see what happens next year, and I'm keen to see it, as I am with every young player. And I really hope Balogun stays, man. I hope the agreement comes. You know, Arteta was kind of vague on that when he was pressed by the press, but we'll have to see, man. But I think Greenwood could benefit from Balogun leaving and things like that. Not necessarily benefit, but who plays up front before, you know, Greenwood potentially could have, not that he cares, and he'll equally thrive. He might have had to, you know, play out wide or play as a 10, or maybe even be on the bench. But, you know, there's no strikers, so there's opportunities to take, and he's going to be 19, so you never know, man. I really believe in Greenwood, and like I said already, I think he's going to have a top future in the game, either Arsenal or elsewhere. I hope it's at Arsenal, but you never know how football works in life, people. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. I've got nothing more to add, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time. It's always a pleasure speaking with you guys. DG, I'm out.